House and Poltergeist are the same movie. I know what you're thinking. Joe, they're both haunted house films where objects attack people. No shit. But they're the same movie, and I'm not just saying this because giant faces pop up in doors either. I tried making this comparison once, and my friends told me they immediately stopped reading at the first line. So today I'm taking everyone hostage in the form of a video essay, and reuniting several hundred movies over one unescapable concept: the home. By the end of this video, it won't even sound like a real word anymore. The angle we're going to approach this from is semiotics. In class recently, we read Christian Metz's Some Points in the Semiotics of Cinema, where he argues that the language of cinema is one of either connotation or denotation, the literal or the symbolic. As obvious as it is to say some things in movies are symbolic, setting this as the ground floor allows us to more specifically choose the literal units of film language than determine what they signify. I don't want to make assumptions about my audience, but chances are you have a home, and that home structures many aspects of your day-to-day life. Whether you live in the city or the suburbs, how easily you can get to work, if your neighbors are more or less likely to want to kill you. Architecture, like cinema, is its own art with both a direct and literal function, as well as a symbolic connotation that is subjective like any other art. The first director who comes to mind is Todd Haynes, who often juxtaposes characters that are fluid in their identity against stationary upper-middle-class houses. It was actually his 2002 film Far From Heaven which inspired this video, a film where a 1950s housewife struggles with the suburban status quo as she becomes involved in an interracial relationship and discovers that her husband is gay, much to the judgment of her neighbors. Certainly this theme is true to Haynes' other movies as well, particularly Safe, which tonally resembles a horror movie, the home taking the form of an all-consuming entity. It's the perfect symbol for structure because it is quite literally structure. It's the object built in support of the white picket American dream, a nuclear family and a good-paying job. And this, of course, leads us to horror. What makes haunted houses scary? In Fall of the House of Usher, it's the image of collapse, the decaying institution. In the yellow wallpaper, it's being forever trapped in the confines of the home, women stuck in a place where they don't belong. One of the more modern takes on this is Shirley Jackson's The Haunting of Hill House, and in particular, it's Robert Wise's 1963 The Haunting which renders this best in the film. Much like Todd Haynes' Safe, being inside the Hill House of this film is like being inside the belly of the beast. Most of the horror is subtext existing in the connotation of architecture, a life we've been promised yet cannot have. The Hill House is obviously evil, yet there is a desire to belong, because when we belong, there is safety. Just as was the case with Todd Haynes, this exists in relation to a queer subtext, our protagonist Elizabeth caught between Theo and Markway, the very prospect of being a lesbian adding to her inevitable insanity. It was Alexander Doty who called queerness a consciously chosen site of resistance and a location of radical openness and possibility, one existing as a response to being within the confines of a heterocentrist text. Hill House presents the terror of choosing this resistance. Elizabeth has the option to live a life that deviates from the norm, but she risks losing the riches of the grand mansion she exists in, the denial creating a new kind of terror which exists between the lines of the text. It's here that we actually get to one house in particular, and that's Nobuhiko Obayashi's house, my favorite movie of all time. In it, our protagonist Gorgeous finds that her father is marrying a new woman, so she goes to return to a past in the country, but this past rejects her friends and turns against them. Each of the friends is identified by one trait, and Gorgeous is rewarded for hers while the others are placed in the metaphorical meat grinder. While some, like Kung Fu, survive longer on their own ability, we also have a character like Fantasy, who daydreams about being rescued by Mr. Torgo. As it happens, though, Mr. Torgo doesn't actually rescue them and instead gets turned into a bunch of bananas. It's so incredibly on the nose, it's hilarious. Most of the girls in the house exist in a state of friendship without concern to marriage, which is juxtaposed against Gorgeous's aunt forever waiting for her husband to come back from the war, as well as the image of the atomic bomb forever shaking the structure of Japanese society. The world has shifted, women have new roles, but because the house is stationary, it rejects their existence and turns their traits against them. Famously inspired by the director's daughter, House takes a child's understanding of the world and combines it with the real terror of adulthood that's looming just around the corner. The movie speaking to the great tragedies of change our characters don't even intentionally take, but deal with because they're inherent to people naturally growing up in our ever-shifting world. This brings us to Poltergeist. Of course, House and Poltergeist are inherently connected over the Steven Spielberg angle. As the fabled story goes, Obayashi directed House because he wanted to make a movie like Jaws. Then with Poltergeist, although it's technically directed by Tobe Hooper, this is often debated, and Spielberg was undeniably a big part of the production, his name even appearing in the credits. Although there are definitely Tobe Hooper signatures in Poltergeist, particularly the screaming, there are many Spielberg calling cards in the film as well, such as what we would now consider the classic Spielbergian family unit that we see in movies like E.T. or Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Even contemporary reviews were quick to point this trope out. A 1983 review for Poltergeist from the magazine Jump Cut called Steven Spielberg the dominant ideologue of affluent middle-class America, the film diffusing the nightmare quality of life in the U.S. horror show. And since House and Poltergeist deal with the connotations of a house and its objects gone spooky, whether he knew it or not, Spielberg was taking his own hand at the exact language of Obayashi, although in this case, from a specifically American perspective. In Poltergeist, the promised dream of suburbia is shaken by the arrival of Reagan and the uncertain future of the country, the same uncertainties plaguing the restless dead the homes were built on. The forces are awakened, and it's not just the parents who have to deal with this truth. It's the kids as well, the group coming face to face with toys and trees and pools made of evil. Spielberg, being an optimist, has us bring them closer together in the end. And there are two ways to read this. Our focus has shifted from people outside the nuclear family to the nuclear family itself. So we can say, of course they survived. This world was built for them. Or we can take it as an implication that these struggles eventually affect everyone. The instability of our world a universal truth. I gravitate towards the latter. It's a hopeful note that to take an interest in a better life for your kids is to take an interest in the security of all people. From Todd Haynes to The Haunting to Poltergeist to House, these are movies about confronting the past in preparation for the unknowable future. We can't sit here and dissect every part of these movies because this is supposed to be a 10-minute project for school, but the purpose of this was to identify the house as a unit of information that is often behind, if not actively resisting, the progress of people. By building from one home, you begin to see the bigger pattern in things like Halloween, which places these challenges onto the entirety of the suburbs and the generation living in it. And you can speak one more piece of language common throughout most movies. By identifying this unit, we're more ready to imagine the new and improved home, one fluid in its nature. Thanks for watching.